What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video, I'm going to be doing a penetration test with my 300 Remington Ultra Mag. I'm going to be shooting at some 2x10 framing lumber, and in this test, we're going to be using some steel core bullets. And I don't have a loaded round right now. I'm going to be using hand loads, but this is the bullet right here. It's a 160 grain steel core. These were pulled from old 3006 M2 AP rounds. And so these have a steel core and just a lead and copper or gilding metal jacket. I tumbled them, so they're in pretty good shape. They're pretty accurate, actually. And I'm going to be loading these to 3,600 or so feet per second. It's hard to get a real consistent velocity with these bullets because they are from, I think, the 1950s, 1960s. These were in 3006 rounds, steel core inside of them. They are armor piercing, and I have done a video of me shooting these at level 4 ceramic body armor. So they are really good at penetrating armor, and I'll leave a link in the top right corner if you want to see the armor test with this. But I'm going to load these to a muzzle velocity of around 3,600 to 3,700 feet per second. And the rifle I'm going to be using for this test is my CZ550, and it has a 26-inch Krieger barrel. And unfortunately, you can't buy these CZ550s anymore. They've been discontinued several years ago as of the filming of this video, which is 2025. But these receivers were awesome rifles too when they were still in production. It's sad that they had to discontinue them because they were a really good, solid safari receiver. You could buy a safari rifle for basically under $2,000 with these CZ550s, but also very good for building custom rifles off of them. They do have a Mauser claw, so they are controlled round feed. I have this Burris XTR2 5 to 25 power scope. I have this Bell & Carlson tactical stock, has an aluminum bed block inside of it, and had the barrel Cerakoted olive drab, and we're going to be using my Silencer Co. Hybrid 46. So we're going to shoot at some 2x10 Douglas fir framing lumber with this 160 grain steel core bullet going around 3,650 feet per second. And I just wanted to show you guys the difference between a 300 Win Mag and a 300 Remington Ultra Mag. Look at the difference. So on the left, the 300 Win Mag. On the right, the 300 Ultra Mag. Just a really long case. I mean, you can almost fit as much powder in a 300 Ultra Mag as a 338 Lapua. It's a really impressive cartridge. I can hand load these bullets to close to 5,000 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And these receivers are really tough, so you can really hand load these hot without worrying about blowing up your receiver, okay? So let's see what happens, guys. Let's see, does the steel core help in penetrating through wood or softer material? We know steel cores are really good at penetrating through armor, but will they help in any way in penetrating through wood? So let's see what happens. 300 RUM. 160 grain steel core versus 2x10 lumber, 50 yards. All right, guys, 300 Remington Ultra Mag, 160 grain steel core, 3,650 feet per second versus 2x10 lumber, 25 yards. Here's our first board. There was our hit. Went through the first board. Here's our hit in the second board. And you can see It's starting to get bigger actually, which is interesting. And wow, look at that exit hole in the second board. That's definitely unexpected for a full metal jacketed steel core. Definitely did not expect that. I guess the velocity is so extreme, 3,600 feet per second to 3,700 feet per second, that even though it's a full metal jacket, it basically turns it into an expanding bullet. Absolutely insane. Here's the third board. You can see big entrance hole there. Here's the back of the third board, big exit hole right here. Again, a full metal jacket steel core bullet, and look at that exit hole. Okay, so velocity will turn a full metal jacket bullet into basically an expanding bullet. Look at the size of that hole. Absolutely insane. Here's the fourth board. There's our hole in the fourth board, entrance hole there. Pretty massive entrance hole. Look at that. I could fit my whole finger in there. And let's turn it around now and see what the exit hole looks like. Massive exit hole. Look at that, guys. That is just totally insane for a full metal jacket steel core to do that. And that's just from the extreme velocity. Here's the fifth board. There's our entrance hole in the fifth board. Exit hole in the sixth board. Look at that right there. Looks like it's starting to tumble just a little bit. You can see it's not a round hole anymore. It's starting to lose its forward momentum. And then here we have the sixth board. There's our entrance hole right there. And then interestingly, we had a piece of the jacket stuck in the sixth board, but it looks like the core continued, so it shed its jacket. All right, this is the actual jacket here. It feels pretty light, so it's mostly the copper jacket. And my guess is the steel core with the lead kept going. So let's continue on. So here's the seventh board. You can see this really clean hole there. That's probably from the steel core and the lead core. Okay, in the sixth or seventh board, I'm sorry, seventh board. And then here's our eighth board right there. Went through the eighth board. And then this one's kind of messed up, but this is our ninth board. Penetrated through here somewhere. I used this wood for other tests. I did the 338 Lapua test with this wood as well, but it went through somewhere over there. So now we're at the 10th board. You can see that it's already basically vertical at this point. All right, the nose is pointing to the sky. Let's see the back of the 10th board. And it penetrated through the 10th board. And then here we have the 11th board. You can see that tiny little hole there. And then here's the back of the 11th board. Tiny little hole as well. And then here we have the 12th board stuck right in there. Looks like some kind of lead and steel core in there. Check that out. That looks like the steel penetrator. You see it? Right in there. Looks like a little wasp's behind stuck in there. I think that's the steel core stuck in the 12th board. So 300 Remington Ultra Mag, 160 grain steel core, 3,650 feet per second, just under 5,000 foot-pounds, or right around 5,000 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, penetrating through 11 boards, Douglas fir 2x10 framing lumber. Okay, and it did not exit, so we're going to try to pull that core out. We'll take a closer look. Before I pull the penetrator out, I wanted to show you guys how it was embedded in the 12th board. So it looks like it turned around completely backwards. But look at that thing. That thing looks mean. It's got a sharp tip, and it's just embedded in the wood. So the penetrator in this case did actually help with the penetration. That steel core just kept going, even though the jacket material around it was shed after just a couple of boards. But that tip is really sharp. Check that out. That looks really interesting. It kind of looks like a field point for bows. When you do some practice with your bow, your compound bow, you use those field points, those steel field points for shooting just practice targets. It kind of looks like one of those. So let's get this thing out, weigh it, and that'll conclude the video. All right, guys, so here's our steel core. Look at that thing. That thing looks mean. It's got quite a little boat tail on it too. Look at that. It's like a bullet within a bullet. Check that out. It's got a little boat tail. Pretty impressive boat tail. I mean, this thing is basically meant to fly on its own, even if it gets separated from the jacket and the lead core. But man, that thing looks really mean. It's like a mild steel of some kind, but I have shot this at level 4 body armor. I'll leave a link in the top right corner if you want to see what happens to level 4 body armor. But let's weigh this and see how much the penetrator weighs. So 79.8 grains, so it's an 80 grain penetrator. So basically half the weight of the bullet is that penetrator. And then here we have the jacket. There's really no lead left. 127 grains. So actually only lost 30 grains. I just can't believe how large that penetrator is. It's really massive. And, you know, even though it's such an old bullet, it's really impressive that they were able to turn such nice penetrators back in the early days of the Cold War. Okay, this is like Korean War era ammunition that they used these steel cores in. Okay, really high quality. You couldn't tell this was 70 years old. Look at the uniform machining work they did back in the day. And these were mil spec, so the military was making these for US troops in Korea. But very, very cool. Check that out. And it is pretty sharp. But that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned to my channel for more 300 Remington Ultra Mag content. I have some more penetration tests coming. I'll leave a link in the top right corner to my 300 Remington Ultra Mag playlist. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.